Okay, this is a talk on how the hearing changes dramatically when we go into fight or flight or freeze mode. And I get my inspiration from Babette Rothschild, who wrote a really brilliant book called The Psychophysiology of Trauma and Trauma Treatment. In this book, there's a really good chart showing the different states of the nervous system. So we can see the calm system here and how this affects the muscles, the heart rate, the blood pressure, the eyes. And then we go into active alert here, and then fight or flight and freeze, and how the eyes, the breathing, the blood pressure change as we move through these states. I'm going to be focusing on these four central states here. This book is designed for therapists working with traumatized people, but I've been inspired by this chart to create my own chart, which you can find here. And so you'll see calm and well-being, active alert, fight or flight, freeze. For anybody who's interested in learning more about the fight or flight response and how it affects the senses, then this book is really, really good. Babette Rothschild is a leader in this field. So I'm going to take this through in quite a lot of detail. I don't think this has ever been done in this level of detail before. So it's just a way of recognizing how the central physiology of the nervous system has a huge impact on our mind and on our senses. And this is central to tinnitus. So I'd like to draw your attention to calm and well-being. In this section, when we are well, our eyes, often the pupils are very small and they're very focused. Our eyelids are relaxed. We have plenty of tears in the eyes, so the eyes feel comfortable, and we can tolerate bright light well. Our vision's very focused, and in well-being mode, our hearing is very focused too. So this is really important to understand. If we are feeling very well and settled and grounded, we can go to a pub and we can easily hear our friend's voice in a noisy pub. When you go into a pub, there's a lot of hubbub all around you. All this noise is coming in, but the brain and the auditory system is filtering out all the hubbub and focusing only on what you want to hear, which is your friend's voice. Your hearing has this amazing ability to discern the information that's necessary and ignore all the rest. In calm and well-being mode, our hearing is very, very precise. It's very good at switching on and off. It's very good at ignoring all the background buzz and any extraneous sound. So if you're working at your computer and it's raining and the wind is buffeting at the window, you notice it for a few seconds, but then quite quickly you can carry on doing your work and you ignore the background noise of the wind or the rain. You can ignore the external sound easily. So you can read a book really easily, even though there might be a baby crying right next to you on the train. Or you can fall asleep in front of the TV. This is actually a question I often ask my clients. I say, when was the last time you fell asleep in front of the television? A lot of them say, well, last week. And I thought, well, that's really good, because you're at home, you're relaxed, you're in your comfort of your armchair, you're feeling safe, you know you're going to bed. And even though there's a drama coming out of the TV with gunshots, screaming, sirens, quite disturbing sound, a lot of the dramas we watch are really disturbing, your hearing system can just go, nah, and off you go to sleep. Our hearing, when we're safe, calm and relaxed, is very good at ignoring sound. So quite loud noise can be ignored completely. So in this state of calm and well-being, we have quiet ears and our mind's actually quite calm and clear and focused. And the world sounds relatively quiet and very manageable. If a loud noise comes along, we can tolerate it quite well and recover. So imagine there's a sudden clap of thunder, oh, what's that? We get interrupted and then we recover quite quickly. Or in a cinema, I mean, cinemas are really, really loud, and suddenly there's a really noisy part. It can really quite stir us up for a moment, but we recover really well. So we tolerate sound really well, and we have very highly defined hearing. So I've worked a lot with people who work in the sound industry, so musicians, sound producers, and when they're in the flow, when they're tracking in great detail high fidelity sound, and when we're calm and relaxed, we can really distinguish all the different registers of sound very clearly. So like an orchestral conductor, we can hear all the different instruments, all the different levels in great depth and clarity. So this is definitely a symptom of well-being. Our hearing is very, very clear and highly defined. And our hearing goes into screen save mode most of the day. I think this is another important point, is that a lot of the time when we're working through the day, going about our daily habits, we only notice what we need to. So if we're reading a book, we see the book. If we're having a conversation, we're watching and listening. If we're drinking coffee, we taste the coffee. But after breakfast, between breakfast and lunch, your taste switches off. And when you're not particularly listening to anything, your hearing switches off. So the normal background, phone rings or laughter in the distance, rain at the window, it kind of gets filtered out of our awareness. It's just happening somewhere in the background. It's as if our hearing system goes into screen save mode and kind of switches off a bit until somebody calls our name, until the doorbell rings, and then we switch on again. So this happy everyday state of hearing is just to be quietly ignoring the world. So that's definitely the stuff inside the body, and the stuff around us, it's as if it doesn't really happen. We may notice if we choose to, but actually if we're working away at the computer or eating a bowl of cereal, whatever's going on, we're focusing on the thing that we're doing in the moment. And the senses that are not being used quietly recede into screen save mode until we need them. So the on-off button works really well. In this state of calm and well-being, our hearing can switch on clearly, but stays off most of the time. We only hear what's important. And we ignore the boring background brain buzz easily. This is really important. When we're calm and well, all the nervous impulses going on the whole time throughout the auditory system are being ignored. We have filters that filter them out of our awareness. We don't hear them because the brain is making a selective choice. When we have tinnitus, the buzzes and the crackles and pops and sounds and nervous impulses within the body, within the central nervous system, within the head, get detected, and that registers as sound. So in calm, well-being mode, an awful lot of stuff gets filtered out actively by the auditory system. The auditory system is very, very selective. And our state of being and our habitual tendencies and what we're focusing on and how we're reacting has a huge impact on how we hear. This is crucial to understand with tinnitus. So let's move into the next state now. So I'm going to talk now about active alert. So active alert is knock knock. Who's there? We're kind of interrupted. Car horn, beep, perfect timing there. So something happens and we're pulled out of our screen save mode, quietly resting mode, into, oh, what's that? And we need to orient to where is the sound and what is it? So knock knock, who's there? This is active alert. This is an important signal. Do we need to worry? We just quickly and briefly look out, listen out, what's going on, where is it, We need to place where it is and what it is. And if it's just a postman posting a letter and it plops onto the floor, back to work. It doesn't matter, and we switch off again. So in active alert, our pupils actually widen. We've been slightly triggered. Our visual field needs to open out a bit to see what's going on. Is it a postman? Is it a predator? Do we need to worry? Or can we just get back to focused reading and working or settling as normal? Our eyes get toned and we look up, we change direction with our eyes, and we can look from bright to dark. The way the pupils respond, it's still very, very able to adapt easily. And then we can go back to focusing on what we're normally doing. Our ears respond with great ease in this state to sudden sounds, so a doorbell, what's that? And then we switch off quickly again and relax. So there's a brief flare-up of hearing sensitivity. Our hearing actively listens out and monitors, and then it reverts to passive ignoring and screen safe mode. So we listen out, who's there? And then we switch off, and we switch off easily. Our hearing sensitivity is temporarily flared up, and then, crucially, it switches off again. When we're well, our hearing can switch off again, and we revert back to normal peacetime hearing, where the brain goes back to filtering out all the background stuff. So we need to know what the noise is and where it is, but our mind is calm and clear. We can stay focused. Oh, I can hear a car. It's just gone past. It's over there. Yep. So I'm just tracking sounds. I'm tracking sounds in the environment here. It's just somebody driving up the road, and off they go. And now I can come back to focusing on this. So my mind's clear and my hearing's quiet. And in this state, I may notice my heartbeat. I may hear my ears popping. There might be the occasional ring, but it settles down quickly. Next, we're going to move on to the fight or flight response. The fight or flight response, if you've been watching my videos, you should know all about this. This is an automatic response to danger. If we see a rustling in the bush and we think there's a lion out there, our heart floods with adrenaline and the whole body floods with adrenaline, and we get ready for emergency. This doesn't feel safe. Oh my God. So the heartbeat speeds up, the breathing speeds up. We get a rush of adrenaline, we get a rush of energy, so that if we are confronted with danger, we can either fight it or we can run off like the clappers, just run as fast as possible to escape. So this is a very powerful survival response that surges in the face of danger. And there'll be many cases where, you know, something terrible happens, like a baby or a child falls under a car, and a mum suddenly finds this superhuman strength from all the adrenaline. Oh my God, and pulls up the car with superhuman strength, and somebody grabs the baby out or the child out, and quickly they move back to safety. We get these huge rushes of energy when we are faced with danger, and we can do quite unbelievable things actually. And all of this is about surviving danger. So let's look at this in detail, because this is absolutely central to tinnitus. When we go into fight or flight mode, our pupils dilate. They dilate to develop a wide angle vision. Where is the danger? Quick. And in this situation, we need to notice any movement. So it's not about being able to see things in detail. If there's a slight movement or a rustle in the bush, we will react. The slightest little movement, and there's a huge reaction. Exactly the same thing happens with our hearing. You know, you can imagine at night time, you just had a horrible nightmare and you wake up and you think there's somebody outside. Oh my God, and you're terrified, you're really, really scared. And then suddenly there's a tap at the window and you jump out of your skin. It really makes you jump. And the tiniest noise can cause a huge response. in your system. So if you think back to falling asleep in front of the TV, there you are, there's tons of noise, screaming, coming out of the TV, but your ears are ignoring all that stuff quite happily. But if you're terrified after a nightmare, the tiniest little creak on the landing or tap at the window can make you jump out of your skin. So the hearing sensitivity can change hugely depending on how you're feeling inside. So in fight or flight mode, your hearing listens out for danger and cannot switch off. You're tracking a threatening sound constantly. So after that nightmare, you hear that crack on the landing and you can't just switch off and go to sleep because you're on edge and you think there's danger. And sometimes you might need to get up and actually turn the lights on and just go and reassure yourself that everything's fine. Then go back to bed. It might take you a while to settle down and go back to sleep. But you're in that red alert mode. Your ears are listening out for danger and you are tracking any sound anywhere. And if we get stuck in this state, then you end up hearing the buzz of the brain and all the noises inside the head, inside the body. Your hearing is literally trying to protect you from danger. So in this situation, if we stay stuck in this fight or flight response, we can get into this very anxious state. What is that bloody neighbour doing now? Or why did I buy that noisy fridge? You know, in this situation, normal everyday sounds like a fridge, suddenly, if we're listening out like a radar all the time, we hear the bzzz of the fridge and it really starts to annoy us because we can't switch off. It's pushing into our awareness all the time. Or the neighbour above keeps on pacing around and it really starts annoying us. So with tinnitus, people are in this state and they become really reactive to any sound and they find it very hard to switch off. The hearing sensitivity rises quickly and it listens out for any noise coming from anywhere. We turn into a radar. We have red alert ears rather than high fidelity focused ears. We need to know where the noise is coming from and what is it. So if we go into the pub with a friend and we try and have a one-to-one conversation, it's almost impossible because we're listening to the whole hubbub crashing in as like a great cacophony all around us, and it's really hard to focus in fight or flight mode because we're listening out for danger. So instead of a nice calm focus of you with your friends and their voice, now it becomes almost impossible because you have scattered attention, sensing out like a radar, and it's hard to focus until you feel safe again. So in the pub, you hear the whole pub rather than your friend's voice. You cannot discern or ignore the background sound. You cannot switch off or stop monitoring sounds. The fridge is keeping awake. So in this state, there's no off button. It's really hard to switch off. It's really hard to focus. We're constantly listening out for danger. And interestingly, the internal thoughts and memories of sound and external sounds are loud. So if you're living in fight or flight mode, a very important part of your auditory system is the auditory cortex, which is where we process sound. What is that noise? And we also have memories of sound. So, for example, if you have a blazing row and it really disturbs you and upsets you, the conversation will come back in our memory. We get repetitive sounds coming back, going round and round inside our head. Sometimes, if you're afraid of somebody coming round to visit and the doorbell goes, if you're very activated, the sound of the doorbell can resound in your memory over and over again. You can start to develop earworms, which is where music keeps playing in your head, or refrains or annoying adverts. They just keep on going round and round in your head. And what this is your auditory memory that's really flared up and it's pushing into your awareness. It's as if you've been in fight or flight mode for too long and your hearing's listening out far too sensitively, and the conscious auditory system is now bringing memories up to the surface, and they're resounding through you. Another thing which is really interesting is that the world out there sounds loud. So I live in London, and the underground's loud and the cinemas are loud. But when I'm feeling calm and well, I can go to the cinema and I can watch something which goes up to 100, 110 decibels, which is really loud. It's shockingly loud. If you're exposed for that level of loudness for a long period of time, it can damage your hearing, actually. But when we're well, we can tolerate it, but it triggers a powerful stress response in the body. Loud sound creates adrenaline, which gives us that rush or thrill, which is big bucks. You know, thrilling movies with big, powerful speakers cause a really powerful response in the audience, which is kind of addictive. Adrenaline is an addictive drug, and people love horror films, and people love thrilling scenes in an amazing James Bond movie or something. It's very loud, and it really gets us fired up, and our hearing sensitivity really goes up. So when I'm going through a crisis, I make it sound like it happens all the time. If I'm in fight or flight mode and I try and go on the underground, it's deafening, and I have to put my fingers in my ears when it starts squealing and whistling through the tunnels. And if I go to the cinema, I have to put my protective earplugs in. I can still hear it, but it takes off the top 20 odd decibels of sound, which makes it safe again. So my intolerance goes right down, and the world comes crashing in much more loudly. The sounds inside the body, so things like tinnitus, ears popping and cracking, and the sounds around us sound louder. So I can always tell how well I am in London because I can tolerate the underground sounds or a cinema quite well. But when I notice my sensitivity going right up, I think, oh gosh, right, Julian, you're going into fight or flight mode. You need to just do some more practice to calm yourself down again. So the world out there sounds loud, and the world inside sounds loud too. So you hear the internal noise of popping, the eustachian tubes cracking, popping, fluttering eardrums, fluttering cochlear muscles. So the tensor tympani muscle, the muscle, little bone against the eardrum, there's a little muscle there, can quiver and flutter. And the stapedius bone connected to the cochlea, that stapedius muscle can quiver. Both of those auditory muscles can quiver or tick, and you can hear that. The vibrating hair cells and the nervous impulses along the auditory pathways you can hear as tinnitus. So there are lots of noises inside the body, cardiac pulse, pressure changes, cracks, pops, clicks. There's a lot going on inside the head and mouth and jaw that the auditory system can detect, which normally get filtered out. But in fight or flight, we hear these things. These first three states have a huge impact on the body. Just to bring this up to speed, when we're calm and clear, the body's relaxed and easy to feel, the digestion works well, and we have good circulation. So when we feel calm and well, the hands and feet are warm, there's normally a sense of well-being in the body, the heart rate is steady and calm, the breathing is nice and slow and relaxed, and our awareness is including the whole body. In active alert, oh, what's going on? There's a slight arousal, what's happening? We orient to the knock at the door. Things tone up slightly, the eyelids, the muscles slightly brace themselves, but then they switch off again. So the body braces itself temporarily. And in fight or flight, the body goes into danger mode, tenses up, and gets ready to run or to fight. So it surges with energy, it's highly charged and irritable, and the digestion really struggles. You know, digesting food is part of the digest and rest response, which is in well-being mode. We eat, and the body absorbs all the nutrients, repairs all the things that need repairing in the body, and really digests well. Being calm and relaxed is the best vitamin pill there is. You can really absorb all the nutrients well. But in fight or flight, we can actually throw up our food or go to the toilet, or pee our pants in shock, because the body cannot put all the energy into digestion. Digestion takes up a huge chunk of energy every day. But if we're faced with danger, no, digestion shuts down. Not dealing with that now. We have far more important things to deal with. So if people have tinnitus, they often are stressed out and anxious. Stressed people often have difficulty digesting. In order to digest well, we need to relax and settle. But when we are stressed out, the body puts the brakes on the digestive system. So the last section here is the freeze response. Now in the freeze response, this is if the lion actually jumps on top of us, or if we go into shock because we've had some really bad news, or life's been piling up and we go into overwhelm and we just freak out. Most people, by the time they get to their 40s or 50s, they've had a crisis, and it's a horrible experience. We find it very hard to settle. We have panic attacks. The mind starts catastrophizing and the body goes numb. So if you imagine the lion that's chasing the gazelle, if it jumps onto the gazelle will faint and freeze. And actually, sometimes the lion is so charged up it will carry on chasing others. But that gazelle that's basically fainted goes into shock. It goes into freeze response. The body goes really, really numb. The mind spaces out. And the heartbeat goes very fast and shallow. And the breathing goes very fast and shallow. And the pupils actually go tiny. And the eyes go very dry. And it's as if the body is shrinking and not wanting to see what's going on. And we get blurred vision. Our gaze goes very fixed. So a lot of tinnitus people are in this state. So the neck, shoulders, and the head go rigid, and the pupils go tiny, and it's as if we just don't want to register. We go into shock. It's as if we're not there. And the body becomes very remote. Our attention goes inside. We see the internal world much more than the outer world. So what happens with our ears in this state? We hear all the noise in an unfiltered way. So when people go into crisis, everything starts to sound really confused. And they portray this very well in films when people are really freaking out. You get confusion of sounds and places, and everything's happening at once, and you don't know which way up you are. And our memory is very powerful, so we hear voices in our head, we hear music, or if we're traumatized by a horrible car crash or a horrendous sound like a bomb going off, it keeps on coming back in our minds again and again. Things come back in trauma again and again. It's like we're trapped for a period of time in this trauma vortex of all our senses inside our memory just coming to the surface and splurging all over the place. It's a big cacophonous mess. It's horrible when we go through that. And our mind races with the sounds of voices, music, thoughts, or external noises. And the world and our home sound harsh, unpleasant and painful. So this is something I hear every day from tinnitus people, is that normal everyday voices start to sound really grating, or the sound of the fridge can be really disturbing, or the telephone can ring and it just makes you jump out of your skin. It's very common when you have tinnitus to go into extreme sensitivity, so you actually start experiencing hyperacusis. So sounds hurt. You're so charged up and sensitized that you hear sounds and it's really unpleasant, and it can actually feel painful, and you can develop misophonia. You become afraid of sound, and all sorts of reactions can come about from sound. It's just like it's all too much. It's all too much. You just need to get away, you need to switch off, and you need to get help to settle. It's horribly overwhelming when you go into this state. And the way we hear sound changes dramatically. Things can sound remote, or echoey. They sound like they're coming from elsewhere. They can be dissociated. So if we go into shock, we can actually really space out and lose our bearings, and we can feel depersonalized. So it's as if we become floaty and we're kind of looking down at ourselves. It's like the mind expands out and we become aware of a big space rather than how we are from inside the body. Instead of in well-being mode being very grounded, we go into spaced out mode and we're not quite sure where we are or where the voice is or where the thoughts are coming from. It's very confusing. Is that loud thinking voice me? So people, when they hear voices, when people go through a breakdown, the voice can be really powerfully loud, that they think it's coming from other people or other beings. It's that dissociated. So our thoughts, our normal thinking mind, can sound like loud voices out there. And the earworms and the music and the reverberations of everyday experience can really take over, actually. It can be really hard to stop your favourite song from going through your mind. It's just going round and round in circles, and it can drive you crazy for a period of time. Scary sounds can keep flashing back into our mind, so you remember a bomb. Our hearing sounds are confused, like a disturbing mishmash. The sounds of doorbells can reverberate, and the buzzing auditory system and noises in the central nervous system sound really loud and relentless. So in freeze response, we're so activated that we can hear anything inside the body, and it can be really loud. So we're in the territory of 7, 8, 9, 10 out of 10 here, and it's horrendous while we're going through this phase. And anybody who presents with tinnitus 8, 9 or 10, the most important thing is to get back to safety and calm. Anything that helps them settle, calm, relax. So positive information, calming body practices, lots of care, support, lots of nurturing, caring for the body, self-soothing. This is hugely important to bring us back into a more manageable state. It's crucial. And in this freeze response, I may not hear somebody speaking to me because my thoughts are louder. We have very loud tinnitus, or we have very loud thinking, or reverberations of the mind just coming through. We may be completely taken over with our thoughts and internal world experience. They really do take over. So if somebody speaks to us, we may not even hear them. We may just seem lost and remote. This is classic in freezing responses. If people kind of get very withdrawn, or they just kind of disappear. They don't seem present. It's horrible, this experience, and we just need lots of nurture and care to come back to a sense of safety. And in freezing mode, the body goes numb, the neck freezes, and the shoulders raise. This response. If you have a massage, it can be really difficult to free up the tension. You massage and it may relax a bit, but then the body tightens up again. It's as if the whole body has recoiled from the world, like this. And so very gentle work, like cranial sacral therapy, it's classic. You just lie there, very, very gentle, safe contact, gradually getting things to open up and settle, are really helpful for bringing people out of freeze response. And with the app, when people listen to Quieten, my app, to help people recover from tinnitus, the positive information, the practical, constructive advice based on years of experience gives people a sense of trust, reassurance, and a practical way forward. And this helps people feel safe. So it can help them come out of to, oh, maybe there is a way out of this. And they start to switch off and start to feel safe again. And to get from freeze response to safety is a journey, it's a process. And regular practices, therapies, and a very solid support network around you and a good understanding all help you get back to safety, calm, and well-being. So I've taken you on a voyage through the fight or flight and the senses. I hope you found this helpful. You can find this on my app. If you go to Quieten, the app Quieten, there's a document section. You can download it there. And I hope this helps you orient to the importance of the different effects of calm, fight or flight, freeze response, and a huge impact they have on the senses and the nervous system. Because this is one of the main drivers of tinnitus. And I think having a good understanding of these fundamental physiological states that we can move in and out of helps people become more aware of what's going on and helps give you a sense of what can help you get better. That's why therapy and support and understanding and self-soothing and body-based practices to calm the nervous system down, that's why they work, that's why they help you get better.